Welcome back to Comfort Breeds Complacency. This is episode 15 today. Just doing a solo pod. I've had quite a bit on this past month and a bit, and kind of just wanted to go over a bunch of things that have happened. So kind of got sink or swim premiere kind of recap, some base jumping stuff, Moab 240 recap, some bridge day and more base jumping. So yeah, just stick along if you're interested. So I like to wear sunglasses for the solo episodes, but I got my buddy Logan, his company's called Papi Flap, so got these sunnies, perfect for cycling, running. They just flip right up, so they're perfect. But also we have new Comfort Breeds Complacency shirts. They're the ones for the swim documentary, Sink or Swim. We got the white shirts now, so I got a couple different options. Got small logo on the front, Sink or Swim logo on the back. Then we got the one I'm wearing right now, which is the Sink or Swim, the bigger logo on the front. And then the Comfort Breeds Complacency logo on the back. And then we still have only a couple of the original black and white Comfort Breeds Complacency Sink or Swim merch. So those are available right now on comfortbreedscomplacency.ca or the link in my Instagram bio, NP Adventure. So if you're interested in helping support the swim documentary, then that's the best way to do it. And speaking of that swim documentary, it's done. Sink or Swim, it is finished. We had 3 premieres for it in Kelowna, so I wanted to have our very first premieres be in the city where it all happened. So in Kelowna, British Columbia is where we did them. They were sell out for basically all 3 of them. Had about 70 people to each one. We had it at Bernie's Supper Club and Cinema. So it was a long time coming. I was talking at the premiere. We had a Q&A after, so we had people come in, and they had a photo booth for the first one. Kelowna Audi had to help sponsor it, so thanks to them, shout out. And they had a photo booth for people, and Bernie's is an awesome place. It's like a kind of a gourmet luxury cinema, so they have all these nice appetizers and meals. You can order steak, you can get your normal popcorn and movie stuff, and we had a nice venue for that, so people would come in, kind of get drinks and food and stuff. And then we had the documentary, which is just under an hour. I think it's 56 minutes long. And then we had a Q&A with me and TMS Productions, who produced the film. We were all up front, did about half an hour Q&A, then had some door prizes and things. So yeah, it was quite the endeavor. One of the questions there was kind of, were you planning on it being this long when you started? Or I was telling people when I first envisioned this idea, it was back when my roommate Ken and we paddled half of the lake from Vernon to the bridge in Kelowna on kayaks. And then I got the idea in my head that, man, maybe I want to do the whole lake, but I don't know if kayaking might be too easy, like doing the whole lake kayaking. I just did half of it, and it took us, I think, 12 hours at the time. So I was like, maybe it would be like a good endeavor, but it wouldn't hit home as much as like swimming it. So I started to look up if anybody had swam it, and saw that Adam Ellenstein was the only person to have done it. And then the goal of sub 40 hours kind of came in, and because he did it 40 hours, 57 minutes and 11 seconds. So I was thinking, man, if I can keep the pace I keep while I'm swimming, like in training and everything, like I could get it done. So that's kind of where it all started. But I was thinking, this was back during COVID too, so I couldn't swim the pools. I had to wait until it was warm enough to get in the lake to start training, which would have been, I don't know, like probably May or June. So my coach Luke for Balance Point Racing, he wanted about 3 months for me to get my ligaments, shoulders, tendons, my base fitness up to a place where I could do it without getting injured. And So yeah, it was set back a little earlier that first year, but we did it in around September, and I was had like 3 months to train, and I kind of thought, yeah, my inception idea was probably back in March, April. I was thinking it'd probably be a like 5-6 month project all in all, with the training, the swim, and then the documentary and production of that and everything, and have a film by the end of it. But man, little did I know that it would be 2020, 2021, 2022, finished the swim in 2023, and now finishing the documentary in 2024. So went from a 5-month project to a 5-year project, and completely changed my life. And it's brought me so many opportunities, and learned so much from 2 massive failures and then a third success, and raised thousands and thousands of dollars, I think all in over 60 something thousand dollars for a number of charities. Brain Trust Canada was the first one, and then we did whatever charity people wanted to donate to, that moved them on the second one. And then on the third one, CMHA Kelowna, over like $40,000, $43,000. So huge success for this project all in all. And I guess it just goes to show that it's only a failure if you let it be, if you give up without keep trying again. So if you finally get it done, I guess the first attempts aren't really failures, they're just lessons. So it ended up being, a 5-year project, and it was very surreal and rewarding to finally put it on a big screen and show people it, and have them enjoy it. And I know that there are lots of people who couldn't make it to Kelowna to be there for the in-person premieres, and we're actually going to be having an online release for it here. I'm going to be announcing it probably within a week or two, but it will be within 2024 where you'll be able to get it online. We're only going to do probably like a 10-day rental period for it as we're going through the film festival and streaming services route, and they don't always like it if you've had your film released fully online so anybody can see it whenever, because then it kind of loses the novelty of having a new film be released at these things. So we had the in-person premiere in Kelowna, which I thought was really important to do, but all the people who are supporters of me, who would probably be watching this, you will be able to get it in 2024. We're going to do like a 10-day rental period, probably from like a Friday through the weekend, through the whole week, till the end of the next weekend, till probably a Sunday night type of thing. So you'd be able to get it and watch it whatever time throughout there. And then also in that package, I'm going to have my Hawaii swimming, the Molokai Channel documentary that we filmed back in March of this year, the one where I got stung up by all the jellyfish, and it was quite a adventure. So it'll be kind of a duo pair. You'll be able to watch both those films, and just stay tuned to my Instagram, nickpelletier.ca, or my Instagram's npadventure, or my website, nickpelletier.ca, and we'll have updates for you there, but it will be soon, I promise you. And thank you all for waiting and having patience. It's been an education for me, and figuring out how to put all this together. And I know with TMS Productions, they said they're probably not doing a documentary for a while, as it's been a big job for them, and for all of us sitting down and going through it frame by frame and figuring out what goes in, and how to make it all work together and in a certain time frame, right? Because we had hundreds of hours of footage, across 3 swims. The last attempt alone was 72 hours in the water. So it was, big endeavor, and really excited for it to finally come together. And I'm happy with the product and the film. I think it'll definitely inspire you to get out and get your goals done, and kind of dream big. Because I don't know, even just when I'm watching it, thinking back to Nick when he's in his young 20s, and seeing how like clean cut I was, and just naive at the goal that I had set, but just made a plan and laid it out and made a checklist of things I had to do, and then you just kind of start checking them off, work backwards from where you want to be to where you're at, and that's kind of how all this came together. So in that documentary as well, it shows not just a swim, but some of the other endeavors I took on while I was in my off seasons of that swim. So like cycling across Mexico, getting into more ultra distance running around Okanagan Lake, all those types of things. So it's a all encompassing film, and I think that everybody will be pretty excited for it when they finally get to see it. So just I guess stay tuned in the next week or so for that to be announced, and then hope everybody enjoys it. After those premieres, I've had the Moab 240 planned. Actually, I was in the Triple Crown, which is Destination Trails, the organization that puts on it's Tahoe 200, and this is miles, so 200-mile race around Lake Tahoe in California, Nevada area. They do Bigfoot 200, which is in Washington State, and then Moab 240, which is 240-mile race in the Utah desert. I've always wanted to do these races, especially Moab, since Courtney Dauwalter and David Goggins, Cameron Haynes talk about how like grueling it is and how you go through hot days and cold nights and mountainous and just barren desert, and it's a pretty cool race. So I knew I always wanted to do that. I actually signed up for this race back during COVID, like right before COVID hit, and then I deferred it a year because after my cycling Mexico trip that summer, I got pushed off the road and broke my foot. So I had to defer it till the next year. And then while I was training for it that next year is when I got a stress fracture in my femur, just because I had been off running so long. I tried to get back into running at a good pace and not too much too fast, but just the, I guess, lack of time running and then getting back into it, I got a stress fracture, which is very frustrating. So I was off again for quite a while, and then they got deferred till this year. So I was supposed to do the Triple Crown, which is all three of them in 1 year, which is Tahoe, Bigfoot, and Moab. Just due to I was having a bit more trouble with my femur earlier in the season, so didn't get to do Tahoe, which was frustrating. And then Bigfoot was right in the peak of my Rock the Boat Rentals season, and it was our busiest time of the year, so I deferred that one as well. And then Moab was the one I was planning on doing in October, and that's the one that I went down to Moab to do. But on my way down to Moab after our Sink or Swim premiere, some of you may know this year I got into base jumping. It's been basically a lifelong goal of mine since I would watch ski movies back in the day of Shane McConkey, and he was a professional skier and Red Bull athlete, but he was also a base jumper and wingsuit base jumper, and you just see him in these ski movies doing massive cliffs with his skis on and then breaking the skis away and doing wingsuiting. And it was always just really inspiring to me to think of what's possible. I know a lot of the time when you have big dreams, there's lots of people or rules or things that'll try and beat down what you want to do. So to me, Shane was always like a beacon of hope for your dreams and pushing the limits of what humans are capable of and combating fear. And I think he's just an all-around great person to model the way you live after. Unfortunately, he passed away wingsuit base jumping. He lost one of his skis, didn't come off when he was doing a wingsuit ski base, and he went into like a spiral. So unfortunately, Shane is no longer with us, but he was always a huge inspiration to me. And this past year I got the chance to pursue my dreams, and I've been skydiving for the past number of years, probably 3 years now. I've been building up my airworthiness and canopy skills and everything that goes along with that. So have over 200 and something jumps for skydiving now, and my goal is always to be kind of proficient in landing and everything like that before I got into base jumping, because it's just different as far as the landing areas you have aren't always as big as a big field like you would have in skydiving. It's just a bit more variables, but my goal was always, I kind of got into skydiving to get into base jumping. It was just always the path I wanted to take. And last year I did my very first base jumps at Bridge Day, which is an event in West Virginia, the New River Gorge Bridge. They shut it down one day a year to have this big event where base jumpers are allowed to jump off. They have people rappelling underneath. They have people rafting on the river, and they have vendors on the bridge, and there's I think over 100,000 people that come to the bridge that day. So the whole thing is packed full of people, and it's a really cool event. So I did my very first base jumps there last year with Scotty Bob and his first jump course, and man, when I got those, I knew it was just something that I've been meant to do my whole life, and it was just felt like a dream come true when I got to do those for the first time. So I knew that I wanted to get more experience and do it right and do it safely. So I wanted to get into another first jump course where they went over more skills and obstacle avoidance and off-heading correction and landing and wind and like reading all the variables and going through a whole jump process. So another one of my huge idols and inspirations when I was growing up, it's kind of how I also got into doing YouTube and stuff, and believed that I could do it with my own adventures, and is a channel called Adrenaline Addiction. So Chase Reinford is his name. He started off doing kind of like cliff jumping videos, and he's hitting some of the biggest cliffs on earth, 100+ foot cliffs, doing triple flips off it, and just he was living the life. And he had this converted school bus that he bought, and he converted it, and then he would take it on his trips and go around cliff jumping and doing YouTube, and has over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. And I remember watching his videos with me and my roommates in college, and just like, that's really where I started thinking like, man, I could do like, maybe not the things he's doing, but I could do videos like this for my endeavors. So that's kind of when I started filming my cycling trips, or when I cycled across America and made the daily vlogs, or across Mexico, or these running endeavors I'd done, or paddling the lake, or anything like that. It's kind of where I started to do the vlogging and things like that, and made the YouTube channel kind of based off Chase. And when I got my school bus, I used the inside of off his videos to kind of mimic his blueprints on how the bed's laid out. And we built that with my dad here back in, I think, 2018 in Calgary. It was like minus 40 in the winter. We were building this bus out, and yeah, kind of all just, I remember being in university classes, like, I don't know, accounting or something, and just not listening at all, just being in the back of the class, like on my computer, looking at school buses and where to buy them. And we ended up getting it from the Kootenai Indian Band Junior High School in Creston, British Columbia, and brought it home. Didn't tell my parents, just kind of surprised it with them when I came home at Christmas. And yeah, it was awesome. I love that bus, and it's allowed me to go on all these adventures and have it at my disposal at races for triathlon, and be right at the start line and have everything I need, water and solar power, so electricity and everything. So I've been on some pretty awesome road trips down to the States with it and across Canada, and a decision I'll never regret. And building it with my dad was very special, so I'll cherish that forever. But I took the bus down from Kelowna to Twin Falls, which is where it's legal to base jump off the bridge there in Twin Falls, Idaho. And after all those years of following Chase online, his adrenaline addiction page and everything, he got into skydiving, then base jumping, and has become one of the most skilled base jumpers on earth. And he's got some of the most experience out there as far as different types of jumps and around the world and different countries. And he's just an all around awesome and knowledgeable dude. And I saw online back in I think it was March that he was offering, or maybe February even, that he's offering first jump course for the first time. This was his first year of doing first jump courses. And I just messaged him on a whim, like I was looking to do first jump course, and I just messaged him, and lo and behold, he got back to me and told me the details. And next thing I knew, I was taking a first jump course with him in May at the bridge, and it was very surreal. I mean, being in the Airbnb with him and watching him for so many hours online, and kind of my whole university life and everything was watching his videos and my roommates and everything. And now here I am taking a course with him and chopping it up and learning from him. It was a really awesome experience. And I got a number of jumps done back in May, and then I was able to, I don't know if you call it graduate, but we finished the course with Chase, and all good, no injuries, and healthy, and gave me a lot of knowledge. And then I went and did a couple base jumps with other people around, like in Squamish this summer, went off the Chief, which is really cool. But then I had the opportunity to come back down to another one of his courses that he had on in Twin Falls, a new first jump course. But he said, like, any of his older students could come down and hang out and just jump, and have any questions to ask him, could ask him. So I brought the bus down, and I was just there staying with the other boys, did like a 10-hour drive straight, and then immediately slept on the floor for like an hour and woke up, and we were going base jumping. So I remember getting 5 jumps in that very first day. And there's a big climb up out of the Twin Falls, where you jump off the bridge, and then you land down right beside the river. But to get back up to the top of the bridge and the packing area and everything, you have to climb up this. It's really steep, actually. It's like rock climbing. Basically, you go up. It's like quite a good endeavor if you do it a number of times in a day, for sure. And then there's another way where you can hike out, but you have to get somebody to pick you up with a vehicle. So I would rip up this climb kind of as training, and the other guys would hike to the end of the road where you can get picked up, and I'd rip the bus down there, and I picked them all up, kind of doing a shuttle bus. But man, that was really surreal. Now having Chase in the bus that I modeled after his bus all those years ago. So that was a super cool experience. And yeah, it's awesome to be able to call Chase a friend now. And it was a lot of fun going back down and working on skills. And I think base jumping, it might get kind of not a bad rap, but it's considered a very dangerous sport, which it is if things go wrong. But you see, once you're in it, kind of the process of how to eliminate issues earlier down the line. So if it's based on your packing, or if it's based on your decision making, even to jump, like that was part of our course, was reading the weather and the wind and the situation and the lighting and everything like that, right? It's making a decision based on your skills and the situation, and situations are situational, right? Each one changes. So it's just having good common sense and good knowledge of what you're doing, and respecting that these events can injure you or kill you. But I think that everything I do kind of relates back to each other, and I think I take a lot of skills from base jumping that I utilize in my other endeavors. So I think base jumping has lots of fear management skills that come into it. Obviously, everybody who's base jumped or skydived or anything like that, you're nervous before you do it. You're confident in your skills, but you're still like, if you're not nervous, there's something wrong with you. You're probably a psychopath. So you definitely have that feeling in you. And when you overcome that feeling and you execute something you know you can do, it's the coolest feeling in the world, where you know there's a margin for error and you know the consequences and the risks are up there, but you are confident in your skills and you execute well, and it's the most amazing thing on earth, man. It's one of the coolest experiences ever. You're literally flying, and I really always appreciate the ability to do this, and I have to remind myself now that I'm literally living the dreams I had when I was younger. So it's a very cool experience to be doing. And but I think I take those skills and of fear management and realizing that you can do something, and sometimes you just have to go through the motions until you gain the motivation, and faking bravery is still bravery. And I think I utilized a lot of these skills when I did my Hawaii swim back in March. Standing on that beach, about to cross over from Molokai to Oahu, when you know there's sharks in the water. We're going into a night swim, leaving at around 6 p.m. And then we'll be swimming all the way through the night, knowing that the waves and currents are up around 17 knots, and our limit of going was 18 knots, and you're choking on salt water, and you're not sure what's around you, and you're getting stung by jellyfish, and your life is very much on the line, just as much as it is base jumping. Like, that is, you're out there doing something dangerous, but again, you go in, you have prepared for it, you control the things that you can control, and then you just go and execute as best you can. And I think it's kind of like picking and pulling, I call it. So like I think of how I was feeling in base jumping and about to do a jump, and then you have that same feeling on shore before leaving for Hawaii, and you kind of realize, you think back to a base jump where you had that feeling, but you did it and you got through it. So you kind of think of, you get that same mindset, you pick it from the base jump and plop it into the swim, and then you can kind of realize that you can overcome your fears, and that's a tool I use to do a lot of the things I do, and I think it's vice versa, right? It goes both ways. You can use things you learn doing ultra stuff for base jumping, and any lessons you kind of learn at all can be utilized in any situation, whether it's ultra or fitness, or if it's business, or if it's relationships, anything like that. So I think it's not just a dumb sport of jumping off a bridge and risking your life or having a death wish. I think there's a lot more to it, and I think it's an intense experience, and I think you bond with the people that you do it with intensely and very quickly. It's an intense experience doing stuff like that with other people, and I think the community is one of the best things in base jumping. Is no matter where you are in the country or around the world, if you're a base jumper and you respect the kind of the morals and the kind of just give the whole community respect. You're not treating people disrespectfully, and you're not doing things to make the community look bad or burning objects for people or things like that, then it's an amazing community. And I think you can see these people we haven't seen in a while, and just you get the same feelings that you would get if you saw them the day before, right? So it's an awesome community to be a part of, and I think even those new guys in the course, when I went down and saw Chase on that second course he did on my way down from my swim premiere, heading to Moab, I was there for a couple of days, and I bonded with those guys, the new guys that were there in the course, and yeah, I mean, they'll probably be friends for the rest of my life, right? It's nice to have people that have like mindset as you and understand why you're doing stuff. And I mean, with a lot of the stuff I do, whether it's the endurance stuff or the base jumping, I try my best to talk about it and get people to understand my mindset. But I think there's a good quote that says, for those who understand, no explanation is necessary. And for those who don't understand, no explanation is possible. So, I mean, I try my best to explain how I do this stuff and why I do it, but some people just won't ever understand it, and that's all right. But I do think that it's important to follow the things that you want to do, and obviously you want to maximize your life and maximize your experiences in it, but life is finite and it will end, so why the hell not go after your dreams? So that's the place I'm at with base jumping, and I couldn't be happier with the friends I've made and the skills I've got, and I'm very proud of myself, even the amount of knowledge I've gained over the past year of where I was last year at Bridge Day to this year. And yeah, it was awesome. So on my way down from my swim premiere to Moab, I stopped in Twin Falls, did that for a few days, and then I continued on to Moab. The race started on the 11th of October, so I headed down, I think 4 days earlier, got a hotel in Moab, and was kind of just preparing, just doing whatever I needed to in order to get ready for the race, and kind of got all my gear ready and was resting my legs and things like that. And the videographer that I had for my Hawaii swim, Kyle, he was free and able to come down for this one as well, so he was my videographer this one, and he was also my crew, because my girlfriend Tasia was she got a contract to play pro rugby in France, so she shipped off there. Super proud of her and going to see her soon. But she wasn't available to help me with crewing, and my dad was actually competing in World Triathlon event in Spain. He's killing it. Super proud of him. And he went over there with my mom, and they did that race, and just happened to be at the same time as Moab. So I didn't really have any of the crew members that I normally would have helping me out, which was all right. I was planning to do it solo, and Kyle just happened to be free and able to come down, so it was awesome to have him down there. Leading up to Moab, my training was going really well. In September, I was actually doing over half marathon a day, every single day. I was trying to run kind of over 100 miles a week, which if you do 23 kilometers a day, that puts you over or right around 161 kilometers in a week, which is 100 miles. So I was running 23 kilometers each day, every single day leading up to it. Mix it in trail runs, road runs, kind of whenever I could. Runs in midnight until 2, 3 in the morning, or runs early morning, runs in the heat, kind of everything. Right near the end of the month, I had to step back and slow down a little bit, as I was starting to feel that stress fracture in my femur again, that exact same spot, which kind of really worried me. I'm not sure with running going forward how I'll have to go about. I might have to do more strength training to strengthen everything around there, or I don't know. I don't want that stress fracture to get worse, as it's pretty debilitating when it is there. So I stepped back a little bit from running leading up to Moab, and I was kind of losing a bit of confidence because I wasn't running much leading up. I was kind of doing more hiking stuff, like at the bridge in Twin Falls, hiking up out of that rock climbing thing. Gives good cardio, but it's not as much impact as running. So I really didn't know how my leg was going to hold up over 240 miles. That's around 385 kilometers, which has been by far the biggest running endeavor I will have done. But I just stayed the course, and I just had faith in my training and my baseline and where I was at and my mental. So nothing you can really do. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So I was prepping for that. Actually, a couple days before the race, I was just running in town, just doing like a 5 or 6K to shake out. And I twisted my ankle on a curb, like completely rolled it, um, which made me really nervous because I couldn't barely walk on it for a couple days right before Moab. And again, biggest race I'll ever have done or endeavor for running. Didn't give me a whole lot of confidence, but just had to kind of ice it as much as I could and take anti-inflammatories and deal with it before the race. So Kyle got there. I picked him up. I think I picked him up on the 9th. So we got a few things that night, and then the 10th we kind of, again, just rested, did the pre-interview for the documentary film, and then I got lots of food stuff for me before. I'm celiac, so I can't eat a lot of the things I had on the Moab race at the aid stations, and you have drop bags. So for Moab, there's 15 aid stations that you go through, and I think 12 of them you could do drop bags, which means you fill up a bag and you give it to them before the race starts, and then they bring it to a certain, whatever one you label it, whatever drop aid station they put that specific drop bag at. So you kind of had to think of what time you would be coming into what station and what you'd need, kind of like gels or drinks that you like specifically, extra clothing, extra socks, blister tape, more chafing like lubrication, anything. So you can put anything in those drop bags. So we filled them up with a bunch of different things we got at the store the night before. And it was just preparing for that race. It's always kind of a surreal feeling the day of. I remember waking up that day of, and you have to fit everything into this little backpack that you, like a running vest that you wear. As far as mandatory gear, you have to have mandatory gear for this race, which is things like 500 calories of food that you can't touch by any means unless you're in like a emergency situation. So 500 reserve calories. You had to have like an emergency blanket, a jacket with a hood, a liner that covered your arms, a liner that covered your legs. You had to have a bag called a WAG bag that if you have to poop in the bag and hike it out to the next aid station. So you just had to have a bunch of stuff that had to fit in this little bag, which I got all set, as well as like headlamp and my chargers for my phone, and had a Insta360 camera and a GoPro for running, for filming, and then had all the food, an extra bladder of water in there, extra 1.5 liters of water on like a Camelback kind of sucker hose that would come out. So extra water, and it was packed that up the morning of. My running poles were on there too, and then we went to the starting line. They clip on a spot tracker on you, so it shows everybody's location on a map relative to the route and where you are compared to other people. So got that clipped on. I think there was about 200 and something runners in the race this year, and it was a hot day to start. They started at 12 noon, and I remember just talking to my girlfriend on the phone, saying bye to her, and then my parents as well. And then Kyle got some clips just leading up at the starting point. And then the race founder, Candace, she gives a speech, so the race director, and one of the lines in her speech says, the pledge, she goes, "Repeat after me. If I get lost, hurt, or die, it's my own damn fault." And all the runners have to repeat that, which kind of, you can say, they're making it seem extreme and more than it is, but no, you go through some times out there where you are really can be in serious danger, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. But we got to the start point there, and basically it's just 10-second countdown, and they count it down, and then it's go time. But I remember standing there before, and she was talking about, I think this is the 8th Moab 240, but she was talking about you should be proud to even toe the line of this race and stand here to start, because it's kind of a distance that not too many people have ran as far as racing and ultras, and you're kind of pioneers in this distance. So I felt pretty proud to finally be there, especially after seeing David Goggins and these other people that I had look up to and take a lot from be there. So I knew I was in the right spot, and I couldn't be happier to be there. And it's always a surreal feeling, like you're standing on that starting line, and it's hard to wrap your mind around. You'll be out there, like, could be up to 4 or 5 days, right? You have 117 hours to finish the race. That's how long you have to get from the start point all the way around the course back to the start point. But as you go, you also have to go through the aid stations at certain points. So you have to make it to the aid station, and you have to leave by a certain point, and those get cut off as the race goes on. But yeah, when the race started, you kind of start running through town, and I was right up front. I think best place I was like 5th. I was running through town pretty good. I've done quite a bit of road running, so I was up there and wasn't pushing myself too hard, just kind of running a comfortable pace. And then you get into a trail that kind of leads you up into the mountains a bit. And the first aid station, I think, was around 14 kilometers in, 14 or 15K. I remember I came into that one, I think I was 7th place, so feeling really good there. I didn't see her because, I don't know, I was just in my head, or I got some watermelon there and filled up my water bottle, but I didn't see her. But one of the volunteers there was Savannah, who was she was the witness and the social media person for my Okanagan Lake swim back in Kelowna in 2023. So she sent me a video after the race showing that she was at that one when I came through, but I missed her, but got through that aid station and then continued on. I actually dropped my piece of watermelon in the dirt. I was kind of pissed about it, but didn't want to spend too much time there. It was only like an hour and a half into the race, so kind of just got some water and watermelon and kept going. Then you kind of climb up out of this area, and honestly, this part reminded me of the climb out of the Twin Falls, the base jump area. I was like, oh, I've been training for this one. It was kind of like climbing up over these big rocks, and then it was single track for a while, and you get into this wide open kind of slick rock. It's not trail anymore. It's these big rocks, and it looks like you're on Mars. I came up over this hill, and it opens up to this unbelievable landscape of this huge red rock, and it's just breathtaking, really. You get in these areas that you can't really get to by vehicle or anything else, so you're seeing this stuff that probably not a lot of people get to see, and it kind of feels like an honor to be out there. On my way actually to that first aid station, probably, I don't even know, like maybe 10 kilometers into this race, there was a drone flying overhead. I had my Insta360 out, just getting a couple clips while I was running, and I looked up to see the drone, and then when I was looking back down, I tripped on a rock and just like sprawled and cut my hand and banged my knee up, and not even to the first aid station yet, and I was already bleeding on the Moab 240, and I remember taking some of the blood and making like eye black on my face, christening the course with some blood. So it was a good time. You gotta draw some blood if you're doing stuff like that. But then we made it, like I said, to that first aid station. Then on my way to the second one was this landscape I was talking about, this unbelievable backcountry in Moab, and you go buy stuff as a base jumper that you look at, and you're just like a kid in a candy store, like looking at all these cliffs that look like so much fun to jump. And I know Moab's a huge spot for base jumping, so I'll definitely be back down there jumping one day. But while I was there this time, I was running, and for the course navigation, they make you download it on either your phone or GPS watch, the file of the course. So I had mine on my watch that I could kind of look at as I was going, and it would tell you if you're off course. But like if you get 20 or 30 meters off of the line, it'll beep at you and say like you're off course. But the actual course marking, it's like They do have stuff, but it'll be like a little ribbon attached to a tree and like a little reflector. So you kind of have to be looking for where you're going. But on this slick rock area, there's no trees or anything to mark it. So there's like a little line on the ground every, I don't know, 100, 200 feet or something. So you're kind of looking around for this, trying to navigate where to go. I linked up with some other runners at this point. I think the female runner who came second in the race, I was running with her for a little while here. And again, like I was talking about the base jump community, the ultra community is awesome. Like you're talking to these people who have ran lots of races before. This might be their first 200-mile distance, or you kind of just bump into them as you're running. You run the same pace as them, and you just talk for a little while. It's pretty cool. I remember we went kind of descending down the rock faces here, and then we got back onto this road that led to the second aid station. But it was super hot going through that section. There was no shade at all. You're just getting beat in the sun. I think it was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so in your 30s Celsius, and it was hot for sure, really hot. When I got to the bottom where that road connected going to the next aid station, I saw Kyle there. He had the bus, he was filming, and then he went by me and met me at the next aid station. So for the aid stations, like I said, there are 15 total. About 12 of them you could have drop bags, and then about 7 or 8 of them you could have your crew meet you at. They couldn't meet you at all of them, but your crew can meet you at about half of those aid stations. So Kyle met me at the second aid station. I remember having, when I was on the road, had a good pacing past a good amount of people. Came into that aid station feeling pretty good. Obviously hot, but pretty good. I had some hot spots on my feet, on my toes and things, blisters that I wanted to get taken care of. So when you're at these spots, the volunteers are amazing. They help you with whatever you need, filling your water, getting you food or drinks or anything. But the medic volunteers, they'll actually help you with your feet. If you take your shoes and socks off, they'll kind of cut your blisters or poke it or tape it and just like treat your feet. So they had these medics at mostly every aid station, which was awesome. And I heard from some people who've done Moab before that it's the sand there. It's like dust almost. It's like the most fine sand you could have. So it rubs you raw like sandpaper when it gets in your shoes. So taking my shoes off and shaking my socks out, even changing socks and wiping in between my toes, trying to limit the amount of rubbing that I would have. So we did that at the aid station. Here, a lot of people were struggling as far as like dehydration, keeping things down. People were cramping up, people were puking. And this was only a few hours into the race at the second aid station. So for sure it was grueling even just from the start. I stayed there a little longer than I probably would have hoped to, but I was there probably just under an hour. I just wanted to make sure my feet were getting good and like I got hydrated enough to continue on how I wanted to. After that aid station, you run along the river for a little while as you climb up. At this point, I ran into one of the runners who I've been following online for a while, Andrew Glaze. He's a ultramarathon runner and he posts every day. He's a solid dude. He's a fire chief in California. He's a solid dude. So I ran into him. He was with one of his other friends who's also an ultra runner that completed Moab last year and used to be a nightlife mogul and club owner and everything, and then kind of got into a different path in life with ultra. His name's Eli Wiebe. He has a book called Mask. I recommend it if you haven't read it. I listened to the audiobook on my way home from Moab. But yeah, Eli was struggling at after that second aid station. He started the race out in first, like he was going hard. And I passed him going into that second aid station. He was struggling with the heat and stuff, and he ended up leaving that aid station before me, but I got up onto the mountain where him and Andrew were. They're friends, so they were kind of running together, and Eli was puking and Andrew was waiting kind of by his side, which just shows the character of him, kind of delaying his own race for helping out his friend. So Andrew's a super solid guy, and I kept on going, but I think Andrew told Eli, because he's a paramedic as well with the firefighting, that you need to lay down and kind of get some rest for a bit, try and slow the heart rate, getting some shade. So as I went on, Andrew caught back up to me, and we ran for a while, doing a number of miles together. It was probably one of my favorite times of the race, just getting to pick his brain on a bunch of things. And as being a content creator, he's got hundreds of thousands of followers across all his platforms, and listening to him and just talking. He's just a real genuine dude. And I learned a lot from him. I really enjoyed those miles with him. And we got to the point where it's called Jacob's Ladder. It's this big, again, I would compare it to the Twin Falls climb, the base jump climb, where it's big rocks, but it's going down this time. So you're going kind of down this big chute of boulders, and we were picking our way down that together, and then continued on along this kind of sand path to the next aid station. At this point, my legs were hurting me quite a bit. They were quite painful, and I had my poles out at this point, and Andrew's a bit quicker than I, so he went on, and I was with a few other people I met along the way, just kind of side by side with them as we're going on the trail. But it went to that next aid station, was I think called base camp. It was nighttime at this point, got dark, so I had to pull the headlamp out, and I was feeling pretty sleepy at that point. I think the sun just took it out of me. It took it out of a lot of people, and I remember getting to that aid station and sitting down, just needed to chill for a bit. But yeah, people are puking there. People are in a bad way there. But that aid station had pasta and meatballs and pre-made sandwiches and all sorts of stuff like that. But being celiac, I can't really have any of that. So I asked, do you have anything gluten-free? They had a bag full of gluten-free pasta, but it was pre-cooked and put in there, so it was ice cold. And the sauce I couldn't have because they put the spoon in, then touch the pasta. So they opened a new tomato sauce for me, which was nice, but it was, again, ice cold. So I had ice cold gluten-free pasta with ice cold tomato sauce, and then they pour a bunch of salt on top to get your electrolytes good. But it was a cold meal, but it was really good. It's nice to have whole foods at those aid stations because you're just eating gels and like sugary stuff to keep you going along the trail. So it was really nice to have that stuff at that aid station, a nice meal. I filled up my waters. I couldn't take any of the sandwiches they had to go because I couldn't eat them, but I took some Welch's fruit snacks, and they had some mini Snickers and things like that, so took those. And then on I went into the night, continued on. I saw Eli actually when I was leaving that aid station. He was there. He laid down. He was a trooper. He battled through that one, and I remember him saying to the volunteer he had to lay down. But I saw him as I was leaving, and went to the next one. This was one of the biggest distances between aid stations. So from base camp to the next one, which is called the Oasis, it was around just under a marathon. I think it was 24 miles. So 7 kilometers into this next section, they had a stop where you could just fill up water. There's no really aid besides you could fill your water bottles up. So during that 7K, I tried to kind of run/walk it and let my food digest and drink as much water as I could before preparing to go through the next section. When I got to that next water fill up, got some water, and then the whole reason that I don't know the whole, but what I heard was why they start Moab 240 at 12 p.m. now is because they used to start at like 5 in the morning, but that would make all of the runners go through this section that I was on right now at the hottest point of the day, which was like noon to 3 p.m. of the day, and it's that dead heat, and it's a furthest section, and you don't have a lot of water. So I think that's why they changed the start time. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what I was hearing from people. So we were on this super hard spot. You kind of climbed up, and then there was this undulating road that would go up and down, but it zigzagged quite a bit throughout the whole section to the Oasis aid station. I was going pretty good. I was feeling really good, actually. I had my headlamp on and just crushing the miles there, and I was going down this spot where it was descending, and it was kind of these rocks in almost like dried mud kind of section. So if you step on the rock, they'll like break away. They're in there, but they're not solid. And I was descending at night, and like you're looking kind of just what's in front of you, and I stepped on this rock, and the whole thing broke away under me, and I just completely hyperextended my right knee, like just pop, and immediately the thing tightened up like that. Just brutal. It was painful in the back behind my hamstring and calf, like right in the fold of my knee. I didn't know if I tore my ACL or if I didn't know what I did, but I knew I did something to my knee. It was pretty terrible. I tried to go on, I had my poles out, but it was just like it wasn't going at all. So I sat down and I tried to put some kinesiology, some KT tape on it, just kind of make an anchor and give it like a extra hamstring almost with the support, but nothing was really working. So for me, that section went from like a spot where I was having good pacing and wanted to do really well, and it ended up taking me, I think, almost 10 hours to get through that section, man. It was like brutal. I was barely moving at all. Points where I was just sitting trying to like loosen the thing up and getting passed by people after person. And then it was just a really tough spot. I remember at one point I was with this girl. She was having a lot of trouble with her feet, a lot of blister trouble, so she was moving pretty slow too. So we were kind of side by side for a little bit, and then we were going to like rest near a rock or something just for a minute so I could loosen my knee up, and she was just taking a couple minutes, and we saw this it was like a fiberglass hull. It looked like a big square rectangle hull, probably like 3 or 4 feet high and maybe 15 feet long. I was like, oh, that's like the best solid object we found. Like, we're just trying to find rocks and stuff before, so I'm like, oh, we'll sit on that. Sat on that, laid back, maybe even took like a 10-minute nap. She continued on. I was like, I need a few more minutes on my knee. So I was just like trying to massage it out, loosen it up. And then I got off this thing. I realized I just made like the gravest mistake ever. I looked at my bag and like I saw these shiny little like furs, almost like carbon fiber hairs or fiberglass hairs that were all just littered on my bag. And I looked at my shorts, all through the back of my shorts, all through my shirt, in my hat, everywhere. Like everywhere you can imagine these carbon fiber hairs were. If you've ever had that, like dealt with insulation or anything like that, it's like they super itchy. Like they poke you and stab you, and it's like a excruciating itch and burn. So I had that, and I had about 12 kilometers left to the next aid station, which was one that didn't have drop bags or crew. The crew one wasn't until the one after that. So, and I was just like in the most excruciating itch and like barely being able to move with my knee, just like gritting my teeth. And I was like, I thought there, I was like, I don't even know how I'm going to make it to this next one, but continued on, just trudging as best I could. And finally, when morning hit, I made it to this next aid station. I remember just being like defeated, making it there, and like taking my shirt off, taking everything off but my little shorts basically, and just sitting there like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do here. Especially with the knee, it was the biggest thing. Like it wouldn't go at all. So I sat there for a while. The medics gave me some ice, some things like that. And I remember just taking a nap for like an hour, trying to just rest and figure things out. But there's no cell service or anything, so I can't even tell Kyle or people following along what's going on. I'm just like stationary at this aid station for hours trying to fix my knee. They had loosened it up a bit. They did grass thinning on it with the scraping tool. They taped it. I had some anti-inflammatories from one of the other racers because they couldn't give it to you because your kidneys are going through a lot during a race like this, and rhabdomyolysis is a big thing where you're working so hard, you're actually breaking down your muscles and you're dehydrated. So they don't like to give anti-inflammatories for that reason, but I got some from another runner just to kind of try and kill the pain because otherwise my race was done. So it was dark spot there for sure. And they were telling me that one of the other runners earlier that got in before me, she had to get exported out with a truck, and it's a spot. The next aid station had a road that could connect to it, but this one was like this terrible bumpy, like it took the truck an hour just to get down to the next aid station. And this lady was having seizures because of like dehydration and things like that. So an ambulance met them at the next aid station. But it really is for these, like if you're in the middle between two aid stations, like that pledge, if you get lost, hurt, or die, it's your own damn fault. It's like you signed up for this, and kind of the only way to make it, to get help, is to make it to the aid station. So, because a lot of these places you can't really get vehicles up, and maybe a quad or a side-by-side, but like some of them you definitely can't get vehicles down. So I was at this aid station, the Oasis, trying to get my leg going. It took me a number of hours just to do that. I got completely naked at a point and grabbed some water out of the bins, and I was like washing off, trying to get these fiberglass furs and hairs off me. And the only clothing I had left was my stuff in my bag, so my long tights and my long shirt. So my thermal black tights and my thermal black shirt, like they're tight to your skin. So I had to put those on, and I finally got my feet taken care of and my leg enough for me to say, okay, I'm going to give it a go to the next aid station, which was 23 kilometers away. And they helped me out quite a bit there. I remember Connor was one of the volunteers. He helped me out a lot. And they were kind of, one of the ladies there was advising I don't go because like I could do more damage to my knee, but I just couldn't let, like I came so far and had, I don't know, I've been waiting for this for so long. I didn't want to end like that. So I made a promise to myself, I'm not going to quit under my own accord. The only way I'm stopping the race is if I don't make the aid station cutoffs. By this time, which was becoming a reality, I left that Oasis aid station 1 hour before the cutoff time would have been. So I had an hour to spare. And that next section, I was able to kind of give it a go a little bit. I had a pretty good pacing. My knee obviously hurt every single step, but and I couldn't straighten it at all. So I was doing this kind of half, like almost a Terry Fox kind of run, where I'd kind of hop on one leg, and then this injured foot, I was just kind of walking with on my toe because I couldn't just push through it. But I was moving, and it just happened to be now at this point the hottest part of the day. I left that aid station at 11 a.m. So I was going through this 23-kilometer stretch. I was just no shade, nothing like that, just dead sun in the middle of the day. You only have a little bit of water. Like I had 500 milliliters on my chest on each bottle, so 1 liter there, and I had 1.5 liters in my backpack. And I haven't done a ton of ultra marathon races as far as actual races, so I heard after that what I was carrying water-wise was pretty minimal compared to what some other people were carrying, so that's definitely something I'll change in the future. But I was confident in my ability to handle the heat, and I've done lots of heat training and sauna, and I knew that I'd done a lot prepping for my Mexico ride a couple of years ago, so I knew how I could handle heat pretty well. But that doesn't make it any easier. And going through this section, there are points you just like are so thirsty, but you can't drink your water right away because you'll be out. And then if you think you're going to make it to the aid station by a certain time, anything can happen, like my knee, for example, and you just can't be stuck out there without any water. So I'd be taking like one little sip out of these bottles and like having to stay accountable to myself. Like every 500 meters as I go, I might be able to take a little sip. I just calling it wetting my whistle, just like barely taking a sip. But I was staying diligent with that. And there were some runners that you just see them laying on the side with their head like behind a little rock, trying to get the littlest amount of shade they can get. And like I said, if somebody's in a bad way and needs help, you can either sacrifice your water and your health and your safety, or you can go as hard as you can to the next aid station and say, hey, there's a runner back there that needs help, and they can maybe send a quad or a 4x4 or something. But that section took out quite a few people. I saw 4x4s going with people down there that were taking runners out, and it was definitely like you get to a point there where you realize that, like I said in that pledge, it's not just a pledge you say to make the race sound cooler. It's like, no, you hold your own life in your hands out there, and the decisions you make can affect your future and how your life goes, right? So you have to be diligent in what you're doing, and you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself to be put in that situation even in the first place. So I did pretty well on that stage. I think I did that in about 3 hours, going through the 23 kilometers there. But I mean, it's so hot and dry that my nose is bleeding. I had this stupid thermal stuff on, man. So not only was it super hot in the middle of the day, but I was also in basically like long johns on my top and my bottom. So I pulled it up so I could have my chest, some wind, like air on it as I was running. So there's a photo of me looking at like I got a crop top on in this middle of the desert, just looking like a fool. And I remember as I came into the aid station, Kyle had been there, but I hadn't seen him since the day before, about the same time at the second aid station. So he was there at the bus and just happened to be like following the tracker enough in town, then jetted out when he saw I was coming. So, because there's no service around there, so he had to go back to town to even watch the tracker. But then he sees me coming through. He didn't even recognize me as I'm wearing this stupid long johns and stuff, just looking like a fool. But he was there with me, and got to this aid station and immediately downed like a full liter Gatorade, and you just need your fluids to get bounced back up. Got in some shade. At this aid station, they had corn tortillas and shredded chicken with cheese. So I had a shredded chicken and cheese corn tortilla, 2 of them, and it's just like straight nutrition you feel. It's just like immediately your first priorities is fluids. Like that's all you want in the world. You could offer whatever, and all you want is fluids. Like no matter the amount of money, like you'll do anything just for, you're so thirsty. So you get those in you, and then when I got some real food, it's just like feels like straight nutrition and just like nourishment, and they were so good. I was just had my eyes closed, just like lost in the sauce eating those things. And then a volunteer worked on my toes again, got them good, but my pinky toe had completely torn the skin right off, like it was all showing, and the underneath flesh, but she got me set on those ones, and checked out of this aid station and went to, this was because it was a crew one that had the bus here, so I decided to take a nap here for an hour and a half. I laid down. Kyle said I was out in about right away for about 45 minutes, and I was kind of like in and out for the next 45 because it was so hot, and I had the fan on in the bus, but I'm just sweating. But this one kind of gave me new life because I was able to get new clothes and get those damn fiberglass furs out of me. Like I said, got a little bit of a sleep, got some food in me. I had to go poop, and they have this tent that they put up, and it's basically like a Home Depot pail with a toilet seat on it. It's actually the same setup we did for the crew on my Okanagan Lake swim, so it works, but it's not ideal. And then this guy, the tent door was broken, so he had to kind of hold it, and it's shaking in the wind, and you're kind of crouching in there, and you lose all like dignity. But I mean, at this point you don't really care. It's just like you gotta do what you gotta do. So I did that, and then I checked out of the aid station and went to tackle the next section, which was I think another 23-ish K. But I was going into the night here, so it was starting at sunset. But immediately, man, after this time off, my knee had tightened up worse than it had been the whole time, plus no more painkillers in me, and I didn't want to push it with how much I could take because of my kidneys. So just dealing with pretty bad pain in my knee. It just tightened up so it wouldn't straighten at all. So I was doing my best to move on, but definitely slowing down quite a bit. But this next section went and left at sunset. Kyle got some sweet drone shots of me running on a road, and then he pieced out to the right, and I got to this main road that was pavement, and I went left, running on that road for 5 or 7-ish K, and then you cut off back onto the trail. At this point, it's dark, and this was one of the first aid stations that people who had crew could have pacers with them, so you'd see other runners coming by you, but they also had pacers, and pacers super looked to me like important and valuable, because you have somebody who's fresh who could also like maybe even carry a bit more water for you, and they're fresh, so they're holding the pace that you want them to hold, and then they say just hold on to the back of me, like as far as like pacing wise, and you just stick onto the back of them, and they kind of hold you accountable. But for me, I didn't have that. It was just me solo out there, and my headlamp, it's super powerful. It's like 1300 lumens, but when it's that bright, it only lasts 2 hours. So it had like 4 levels. So if you want to last all night, you have to go on the lower level. And when it's super bright, it's nice. It's like it's daytime, you're wide awake. But when it's a dull light, it's like just enough so you can see in front of you, but not hurt yourself. But it makes you so sleepy. It's like, just makes you so sleepy. So, yeah, I was going along this section, and again, I left that other aid station 1 hour before the cutoff time. So I'm fighting to make it to this next one, which is called the Island. I was going down this kind of river bank. Actually, it was a dried up river. You go down the middle of it, walk in and running down there. I remember just laying back, taking a nap. You take these dirt naps basically anywhere. It's just like you lay down and just need a break for a second. You lay your head on whatever you find, a rock, and you go ahead and do it. It was funny. I saw after the race was all done, Kyle and I were kind of looking at our times on our camera videos and stuff and seeing where I was at and where he was at. And when I was laying in this dried up river, taking a nap in the dirt for like 10 minutes, and there's a scorpion by me and all this stuff. Kyle was at dinner with with Eli, the racer, his videographer. They were at dinner, having a nice big juicy burger and a beer, and I was just, oh, you bastard. But yeah, no, I continued on that section, and this section was super dark, but super cool landscape. You could see the silhouettes of the mountains against the kind of dark sky, and heard coyotes howling, and I made it up to this next aid station, and one of the runners on the course told me the cutoff was 12:30, so I was busting it to make it up there. Made it by like 12:26, and I'm like, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to get everything I need to do before I get out of here. But they're like, no, man, you got time. You got 2 hours. It's 2:30, so it's 2:30 a.m. the cutoff. So I was like, okay. Sat down. They made me it was a ham sandwich, gluten-free bread, ham, and shredded cheese. Nice. Like, it was when mustard, and it was falling apart because the gluten-free bread's terrible, but I like squeezed it together in a ball and just am like shoving it in, eating it that way. So at that aid station, a few more people came through. There was one guy, he had done the Triple Crown this year, so he did Tahoe and he did Bigfoot earlier in the year, and he got here and he was with his pacer, and I've never seen somebody like, looked like he'd been through war, man. His eyes were sunken in the back of his head. He said he was puking every like 10 minutes on the trail. Like, he's like, I'm done here. And all the volunteers were trying to like convince him, just take time. But he was even trying to eat there at the aid station. He was getting sick. So, but he had a pretty cool kind of way of looking at things. He was saying that a few years ago, he couldn't even run. Like, he wasn't a runner. And now his failures are 87 miles into a race. So I thought that was a pretty cool way to look at things. Like, obviously you want to strive for a lot, and some days just aren't your day, but to look at something that's considered a failure and look back where you were a number of years ago and realize that, hey man, this would have been my biggest achievement a few years ago, and now I'm considering this my failure. So like, it's cool to see where people can grow and how they can grow. So I thought that was super inspiring to look at it that way. That being said, I wanted to keep going, so I got my toes taped up. I got some extra. They actually lost my drop bag at this aid station. It never made it. So one of the super nice guys there, Jeff Price, he'd done the Moab and other races a bunch in the past. He was injured this year, so he didn't do it, but he was a volunteer, and he gave me some of his gels, and super nice guy. And I checked out of this aid station at 2:29, so last one to leave it. A few runners were still there, but they had timed out and they were done, DNF'd at that one. So I left the last one, which meant I was officially in last place. But I was still alive. and the sweepers are called are behind me. So they're the ones that go from when an aid station closes, they go along the route and pick up all the markers, like the clips where you'd have reflectors and ribbons and things like that, and the signs. So they were doing that. So they're right behind me. I'm like, oh man, I can't let these guys catch me. So I left the aid station. I wasn't even really all ready to be packed up yet. I just kind of left because I had to, and went down the road or trail like a couple 100 meters and fixed my shoes, fixed my gaiters, got my stuff packed away. And then this section was the first kind of where it starts to incline up to Bridger Jack, from the island aid station to Bridger Jack. So yeah, I started going on here in the dead of night, and at this point, I mean, I didn't get any sleep at that last one because I was taking care of things before going. So I had a pretty, I mean, my pace was what it was. I was moving. It wasn't great, but I had passed one lady who was like really coughing really bad with her pacer. I found out after she didn't make it she's alive, but she didn't make it to the next aid station in the time that she had to. So, but I passed her, and I didn't see the sweepers anymore after that. So I was going along, and I took a few dirt naps here or there. But again, you're going on this headlamp is just like, you can't see anything barely. It's like just enough to see, but you want it to be able to last the whole night, right? Which is however many hours. So you kind of have to have it on the lower setting, and you just get so sleepy and tired. But I was going up this incline, and have gels every so often, and trying again savor my water. And one of the things with Moab is it's super hot during the day, but it gets cold at night. The first night wasn't bad because you're down lower, but as you get higher, it gets like pretty cold. So I'm wearing my puffer jacket now. And it was, just trudging on. Basically the whole thing's a gradual uphill, and then it gets steeper the last bit. But this one again was around, I think, 23 or 24 kilometers. And you really start to live aid station. You think of how big of an undertaking this is, and you think it's how do you even wrap your mind around 385 kilometers? And you really can't. And this is stuff I've had to learn from my other endeavors, like going across continents on the bike. You can't look at how far you have left. You have to worry about today and what you have to do today to make it to the spot you need, and then you reassess the next day, right? So you take that massive thing of crossing a continent over multiple 50 days or something, and then you scale that down to a race where you're going 385K, but it's only a few days, and then those days when you'd be crossing continents become the aid stations for this race. So I was really living aid station to aid station. You go, how far is it? How far do I have left to go while I'm on it? Like, what am I dealing with? What are the problems? And then you just have to take it one by one. And when you're at that aid station, you reset. And that's why it's nice to have a little bit of time there, because you can like rest your legs a bit and like get refreshed. But when you're battling the clock now, because I was so far behind in that stage where I hurt my knee, it's always nice to be ahead so you have time to get, instead of being like just back against the wall having to make the cutoffs. So I was going as best as I could to make it to Bridger Jack on time. Daytime started to come. And I'd realized I've been running along this, like, it's a massive kind of cliff drop off on your right, but you can't see that while you're running in the dark, right? So you're just following the trail and see a marker every now and then, but you realize it's like a massive cliff drop off to the right. But with that is an awesome, like, awe-inspiring landscape. It's pretty amazing. So I got to a point, I saw this goat, like, dead, gutted, completely dried up. I thought it was a deer at first, so I called him the daily deer. It wasn't looking too good, but that was a few kilometers before Bridger Jack, and pushing, still rationing water, and made it to Bridger Jack. The cutoff time was 9:30 that you had to leave Bridger Jack to go on to the next aid station. And I got there, I think it was like 8:50. So I had about 40 minutes, something like that, to get ready. Immediately I was trying to get and these aid stations open, they have to open for the first person to come through, and they have to stay open till the cutoff time. So they had been open for so long already. They were like half an hour before they're starting to pack things up. And as far as gluten-free stuff, they didn't have a ton there, so I had my drop bag, and I had been trying to get my knee ready, but at the same time, volunteers are getting things packed up, like, because they're done in half an hour. So I was just one of the last runners there, and it was kind of, I was just by myself trying to get things ready, and got my knee kind of like trying to loosen it up and take my shoes off and trying to wipe them quick, and then look for the person to tape them and all this and that. And while I'm doing all this and trying to eat and trying to just like deal with some pain, I just, in the process of getting back ready to go out and run again, I just didn't make the cutoff, which was very frustrating. So I was done my race. I DNF'd there. It was mile, I think 100, or I think that's 98. On my watch, I think it was 158 or 157 kilometers. So right around 100 miles, which would have been the longest I've ever been in a race. And it's funny to think that, like, if you went that far in a 100-mile race, which is only 100-mile, like, it's set as a 100-mile race, you go 100 miles and you're celebrated, and you're seen as doing something great, and you've accomplished a goal. And my goal is different for this one. Obviously, it was 240 miles. I made it around 100, but you make 100 miles and it's considered a failure still. So super tough. I mean, I think the most frustrating part for me was my body felt great otherwise. Like, I wasn't dealing with a lot of these issues that some of the runners were dealing with, like the GI issues or the dehydration issues or the puking or cramping or anything like that. Like, my nutrition felt great. My stomach felt great. No chafing. I had, my sleep was fine. Like, I didn't feel tired really. And my left leg was fine. Like, everything felt great except for this right leg, which was just debilitatingly, like, I was going to keep going. Obviously, I said the only way I'm stopping is if I time out, but that's what happened. I just ran out of time. So they take your spot tracker off, and you're kind of just left there to wait until they pack up and one of the volunteers can bring you back to the headquarters. So yeah, it was frustrating, man. It was pretty heartbreaking being there and putting so much into it and prepping and getting down there and doing the race, and you only make it just under halfway. So I was pretty frustrated with myself, but also proud that I made it over 80-ish something kilometers with that knee, how it was. Because I remember when I got back to headquarters, and actually it was when we picked up our drop bags on the very last day of the race, like after it was all done, I saw the volunteer who had helped me out at the Oasis, Connor, and he said, "Which one did you make it to?" I was like, told him Bridger Jack, which was 1, 2, 3, like 4 aid stations ahead. And he's like, "Oh man, I didn't think you were going to make it to the next aid station." So I was proud of myself that I was able to push through that one. But again, it's just like, it's so frustrating, man, especially piling on this year where Hawaii was a failure. Didn't get that one done because of the jellyfish and the water in my lungs and everything. And now Moab. And yeah, just, I guess it's just part of this sport when you take on these massive goals. It's not like these things are just half marathon runs or like 5K swims, or like I'm trying to battle nature in its most raw and pure form and take on these massive challenges. And I don't want to stop doing that, but the reality is some of the times you're not going to succeed. And I've been taking these in stride and trying to reflect on them as much as possible and learn lessons from them and utilize that in the future going forward. And I will be back in Hawaii doing that in the future, and I will be back at Moab hopefully next year if I can get into the lottery and do it again. But doesn't make this year suck any less. So I was encouraged that my training helped me well, and my femur did end up feeling all right. And I taped my ankle like hell before, and it held up, so I was all right. But I was encouraged by my training because the rest of my body felt fine. Like I said, my nutrition, dehydration stuff wasn't a problem, and my left leg, which is how both should feel if one didn't get injured, felt fine the days following. And yeah, so it was me and one other guy from Barcelona. He DNF'd at that spot. DNF, did not finish, and we both got driven back to the headquarters where the race started with them. And then you get back into service and you get all the messages from people. And the tough part is we got a hotel, Kyle and I, like right down the road from the finish line, and you still have to sit there and watch all the other people's spot trackers go, and you can hear when people finish like days later. The winner was Max. I think he was 69 hours and something. So congrats to him. But yeah, I mean, it's just painful seeing people that you were running with on the race coming into finish now as the days went on. So yeah, super proud of all them and congrats to them all. But definitely feeling like you should be there as well. And I definitely feel like I should, and I will be there. But this year, just had something come up with my knee. So, yeah, it was not a lack of effort and trying, and I just timed out. Like I said, the only way I'm stopping is if I time out. So that's what happened. And, yeah, so the next few days we just kind of hung out at the hotel and, yeah, I got some shots around Moab. I mean, it's an unbelievable place, but I was pretty bummed out, man. Just trying my best to stay positive, but missing my family, missing my girlfriend, injured, and now not succeeding again. It just sucked. So those are the moments that you use for fuel in the future when you think about when you want to quit in the middle of something. You think about, no, like these are those moments that you think back on and say there's no fucking way that you're going to stop because you don't want to feel this again. And this time it wasn't as much it wasn't a matter of will or wanting to stop. It was my body. And that's just reality, like I said, of doing things that are exceptionally long, and your body will give up some days and will have injuries and things, and it's just about mitigating them as best you can and preparing, and I'll heal from this one. I'm still haven't ran yet. We're into November now, and my knee is, I don't know, it's coming along, but still haven't ran yet. Been back in the pool doing some things and training, but yeah, so it, yeah, that was Moab. And after that, we drove up to Salt Lake City. That's where Kyle was flying out of to go back home to Toronto. And me, I parked the bus, and I wasn't going to go after how bad I felt in Moab. I just was pissed off, but I had a ticket to Bridge Day, which is where I did my very first base jumps last year, 2023, in West Virginia. And I had a ticket this year, and I had flights booked and everything. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go. Like, I'm going to, at least, even if I don't jump, I want to see my friends, and it'll be good just to have a little bit of a break mentally and see people who I love. So I went out there, and man, as soon as I get back in that community, it's like all these people who are coming up to me saying how inspired they were, even just watching me do the Moab, and I couldn't imagine running this far and that, and then I don't know, it was just, yeah, that's kind of where you get the you can kind of see the accomplishment you've had, even though it was a failure, right? You kind of look at it a different light, and in the eyes of other people, how they see it, and I was happy to be able to provide some inspiration for people, and I know I'm going to get it done in the future, and there's this kind of quote. It's called "The Man in the Arena," and it talks about like judgment shouldn't be cast upon the person who's trying for their, like, the one in the arena, whether they win or lose or injured or whatever. I'm just paraphrasing it, but it definitely hit home for me, and I feel like no matter if I try these things and fail, I'm never going to stop trying, because I got so much from the process of doing these things and the experiences, and I want to be very versatile. I know a lot of the people that are doing Moab are runners and professional runners, and as much as I love running, I also love swimming and cycling and base jumping, and I don't want to give up on one aspect of my life just to commit to solely one thing, and might not ever be the best in the world at something because of that, but I'm going to be, I guess, one of the most versatile, and that's what I want. I want to be able to be dropped into any situation, air, land, sea, anything, and be able to be competent enough and skilled enough to get through it, right? So, yeah, I decided to go to Bridge Day and had a good night just seeing people and hanging out. And then the next day in the morning, you take these buses and they bring you to the bridge. And it's a cold morning. You're shivering. You're nervous. They have this scissor lift that goes up to give extra height for people if they want. And one cool thing about this bridge is the bridge in Twin Falls, Idaho, is about 470-ish feet, something like that, just under 500, whereas this one in West Virginia is 880. It's just under 900, so it's probably 900 with that scissor lift when it goes up. So you have double the time. You can do different things, like you can try different flips and different tricks and things, and it was really cool. So we got there. It was cold in the morning, but you're with all your boys who you love, and then the people start to come on as the bridge day opens, and then it's time to jump, and it opens at 9:30, and the ban for legality is lifted, and then start jumping, and there's kind of like a lineup for the jumpers. You go to either this platform or you go to the scissor lift, or they have it's called the human rastapult. It's a catapult that shoots the base jumpers off the bridge into the air. So that's a cool one. But my very first one, I just went off the scissor lift and did a 4 or 5 second delay, which is pretty sweet. One of the longer delays I've had so far out of all my jumps. And it's just cool to be there in front of thousands and thousands of people, and they're cheering you as you go, and you jump and you can hear their voices like, ah, and then as you pass them on the bridge, it goes, ah, and then it's just quiet, and you feel the wind and you see the ground coming, and it's just like a very surreal but intense experience. And then you pitch and open up, and then one good thing about Bridge Day is it's a good place to learn, and it's quite safe as far as people who are obviously experienced skydivers or have air awareness as far as canopies, but you can land right in the river underneath, and they have boats who will come right up to you, grab you, throw you in the boat, grab your canopy, pull it in, and so it's like a good place to learn because it's low impact there. The boats actually have a contest with each other to see who can pick up the most amount of base jumpers in the day, and then they drop you back on shore. Obviously, you're soaked and your gear's wet, and you have to flap it out and dry it for probably an hour or so before you can jump again, but at least you're healthy and wet instead of dry and injured, right? And they actually have an award at the end of the day, which is called the DFH award, Dry Faster Than You Heal award, which is for the first person to leave the event in an ambulance. So it's usually somebody's busted ankle or something. They land in a tree so you don't want to win that award, but thankfully nobody got that this year. I think it was the first year ever nobody got injured. So that's awesome. But no, my landings were all great. They have a target that you try and land in. So I landed right in the area, touched the target on the first time, and my other jumps landed right there too. It was awesome. But you get down, and then everybody's kind of packing in an area at the bottom, and you're just smiling, high-fiving your homies, just like vibes are so high, watching people jump from the bridge, and they have a live stream going, and it's just awesome music. And then the bus takes you back to the top of the bridge, and then you can jump again. So I got 3 jumps in that day. First one was just a straight jump. Second one, I did the catapult. I remember seeing it last year when I was doing my first jumps. I was like, oh man, I couldn't imagine doing that now, but like I definitely want to do that next year. And now next year is this year. So I got a ticket for it. They're like $75 to do it one time. You had to buy them back in the winter, but I was like, I'm doing it. So I got it, and I was trying to think of what to do off it. It kind of puts you, if you go forward, it puts you into a front flip. If you go backwards off it, it puts you into a back flip. So trying to think of something kind of unique to do. So I got on it and got launched off, and I did like a salmon in the air where you kind of like flop like a fish in the middle of the air. And I saw videos after, and people were loving it, laughing and thinking it was fun. So I did that one, and then came back up for the last jump of the day, like 4 minutes before the cutoff. I think they cut it off at 3 p.m. I did a jump with my buddy Matt. We did a two-way, so I jumped and he jumps right behind me. And I did my very first gainer, so laid a gainer backwards off the scissor lift, and that was a super cool one. That was probably one of the coolest jumps I've ever done. And again, landed safely in the landing area, and after that, it's just hanging out with people, and you go back to the check-in area, and they kind of have just like a fun awards kind of thing for the person who hit the target best and things like that. And then it's just people are hanging around at the bar and just hanging out, chatting, dancing. They had karaoke going, so it was a fun rip. And every time I've been to Bridge Day, I've went and not had any place to stay because like things get booked up, and I just go as the adventure and be like, I'm just flying here with no hotel, nothing booked, and like something always works out. Matt had a hotel this time. I stayed out the first day, and then the second night, one of my buddies, Ty, who was jumping, we went to this bar where we went last year called Maggie's, and it was a karaoke spot. And last year we were there singing and having fun, and then this year we went back there, and the exact same bartender was there, the same owner was there, and the same people that we met last year who remembered us as the base jumpers were there this year. And they saw us, one of the guys like, is your name Ty? So my buddy Ty, and he's like, yeah. It's like, no way, man, like you were here last year, like, oh man. And then like got photos of all these people we saw like a year later. And it's a small little like hole in the wall bar, but Maggie's in West Virginia. If you're ever there, go there. That's a goated spot. Anyways, we were there, and then afterwards, just Ty has this little Prius, and we both just slept outside in his Prius in the passenger seat and driver's seat. So, just that's Bridge Day. You just go with no plans, and things always work out, and it's an awesome time. And then I got. After that, got my very first antenna jump with some of the homies, and then that means I have my base now. So base is building, antenna, span, which is like a bridge, a span, and earth, and that's like cliffs and stuff. So officially now I have my base, BASE. I have all 4 objects, and you can apply for a base number, which I did. So you get a number of whatever number you are base. I think they're 2,000 and something now. So I'll get my number, which is exciting. And then after that, Ty drove me to the airport in Columbus. I flew back to Salt Lake City, and then drove my bus up nonstop for like a day straight from there to Calgary. So now I'm back in Calgary, and basically just been here trying to relax for a bit. Well, working on a bunch of stuff, but trying to like rehab my knee and get some swimming and stuff in. So I'm not 100% sure what my future will hold as far as endeavors this year. I have one that I'm trying to look at before the end of the year. So I'm just trying to figure that out. But like I said, my girlfriend Tasia, she's in France playing pro rugby. Super proud of her. So I'm going in a week to visit her, probably until near Christmas. So I'm just excited for what's to come. And I've been having this idea of a really, really, really big endeavor in 2025, which I'm excited about, but no solid plans yet. But I've been really thinking about it. It's one I've wanted to do for a long time, and I think that now is a good time to do it. So I'll be planning that and seeing if it all works out. But just appreciate everybody for the support and all I do, and means a lot for those who have sat and listened to me talk for an hour and a half. Like I said, if you want sink or swim, the CBC Comfort Breeds Complacency merchandise, you can go NP Adventure, just on my Instagram, first link in the bio. There's a website, which is comfortbreedscomplacency.ca. There's only a limited amount of these. We're not going to be remaking them once I'm done selling them out. So go get yours if you want it. And other than that, the Sink or Swim documentary, if you've been waiting to hear it, even waiting to watch it, stay tuned to my Instagram. I'll be announcing within a week or 2 weeks when you'll be able to see it, when you'll be able to get it for that 10-day rental period. And I'm excited for everybody to see it. I think it's been a long time coming, and it's finally time. So, that's kind of been my last month, and hope everybody has had a good past month and has good couple months here until the end of the year. And, thank you for all the support, and go check out Papi Flap sunglasses, my buddy Logan's. Papi Flappy, I think, is the Instagram. Papi is Papi, and Flappy, Flappi, I think it is. So, go check them out. Love them, and thanks for watching. This is Comfort Breeds Complacency, episode 15, with Nick Pelletier. Keep her not so bad.